So welcome everybody. This is Elisa with XY Zen Wellness, and we're here for some nice relaxation, some yoga time of giving to ourselves. And as always, I recommend that you listen to your body as we move through the practice. So as I present options and modifications, picking and choosing what feels good to you, and even if we're flowing through something else or doing a pose that doesn't feel good to you, then finding what does. So never feeling like anything is mandatory. These are all suggestions, and it's all about, paying attention to your body. What does your body need right now? What does your mind need? I do tend to often recommend that you have some props. You might want some props nearby, like a couple of blocks. And if you don't have blocks, maybe a pillow or a cushion from your couch, maybe even a rolled up blanket. So having whatever you might want nearby, maybe even a bottle of water in case you get a little thirsty. And again, just really paying attention to what your body needs in each and every moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to start reclining. So lying on your back, and that might mean with your knees bent, or you can extend your legs, whatever feels most comfortable. And maybe shifting or adjusting your body in any way so that you feel a sense of ease here. And if it feels okay, you can let your eyes close, but if that's not comfortable, just letting your gaze come towards the ground, and that really signifies or signals the body that we're turning our attention inward. And then as you just allow the body to relax, we'll begin to notice every part of the body that is touching the ground. So that might be, the feet, if you have your knees bent, the arms, and then the whole back of the body. And consciously allowing the shoulders to relax, letting them dissolve into the earth. And then just scanning the body, starting down at the bottoms of the feet, and then traveling one body part after another, very slowly and deliberately, as you notice any places that might be carrying any tension or maybe a little bit of achiness. And traveling from the toes to the top of the head. And then just making those observations without any type of judgment or creating stories about what you're experiencing. Not needing to label anything, just noticing as if you were witnessing the body. And now bringing our attention more to the breath, just noticing the quality and the texture of your breath. Is it smooth and steady, or do you find it getting stuck in one part or another? And then maybe placing one hand on the belly and one hand on the chest. And doing this so that as we breathe in, we can feel the expansion, feeling the belly rise on the in-breath, and then the ribs, and then the chest. And then on the out-breath, reversing that. So exhaling, emptying the chest, the ribs, and then the belly. Inhaling, finding that same three-part breath at the expansion through the belly, the ribs, and then the chest. And then exhaling, letting go, emptying. So every time we exhale, really letting go completely, emptying fully, making space for that next in-breath. So the yogis call that spanda, when we empty fully, and then we inhale, expand. So we're having that spanda, that expansion and contraction.
And we can never know fullness if we don't know emptiness. So allowing ourselves to really empty out, letting go of expectations and judgments, letting go of any limiting beliefs that might be holding us back, those thoughts that we tell ourselves, those stories that maybe we're not good at something or we should be doing things differently. Just letting all of that go. Knowing that the only limits we have are the ones that we place on ourselves. So taking just a few more breaths right here, with the eyes still closed. And then whenever you're ready, just beginning to take a big good morning stretch, maybe stretching the legs long and the arms overhead, or any way that feels good to you. So getting nice and long, then exhaling, we'll find that contraction. Maybe bring knees to chest, falling into a tight little ball. Might even bring the forehead up to meet the knees. And then lowering the head back down to the floor. We can rock those knees side to side, maybe make some circles. And if we're making circles, we'll go the opposite direction. Into that fascia on the back of the body, into the lumbar spine area. From here, we're going to bring our feet down to the floor. We'll keep our knees bent. We're going to start with a really subtle movement for the lower back and for the pelvis. So as we inhale, we're going to tilt or arch the spine. So you might even have a little bit of space for your hand to go under the back. And we're just doing that to check to make sure we have that space. So we're lifting the belly and the chest up, almost like when we're doing cow pose. So if we were in cow pose on hands and knees, the belly would drop. So now the belly's rising. As we exhale, we'll let the belly draw in and the low back presses into the earth. So inhaling to arch the spine, and then exhaling to round the spine, creating a really small movement here, a little bit of a pelvic tilt. And making this as big or as small as feels good to your spine. We're really focusing more on the lower part of the back. So if we were really doing cat and cow, we'd get the whole back involved. And as we move through this, as we're just warming up, we want to move really gently and really slowly. So not trying to over-exaggerate any part of this movement. And noticing how this feels to you. So if you need to modify it in any way, make it smaller, you can do that. So I'll just do one more time in each direction. And then we're going to settle into a place where we have a neutral spine, so between those two. And from here, we're going to create some circular movements, almost as if we had a clock on our belly. So you can imagine that towards your knees is the 12. Over by your right hip is the number 3. Towards the chest or the head is your 6 on your clock. And over to the left hip is the number 3. So we're first going to tilt, kind of like we did just a moment ago, towards the 12. And then rolling over to the 3. And over to the 6. And then the 9. And then the 12. The knees might follow along a little bit. That's okay. You can make this movement small and compact, or your knees might move a little more, maybe make it a little bigger. So we're just giving our lower back a little bit of attention here. So especially if we've been sitting a lot, this might feel really good. We'll do one more time in this direction. And then coming back to neutral, we're going to reverse that. So this time we'll go forward to 12 and then over to the number 9, down to 6, and then to 3. So making that little bit of a circle. And one direction might feel a little more natural than the other. And arms can be next to the body or wherever you like. And just one more time to this direction. Then stopping here, we'll bring knees to chest one more time, or you can keep your feet on the ground. So after some of that focus movement, we're going to add in a little bit of strength for the back. So we'll come through bridge pose, bringing our feet in line with our hips, and arms are next to the body. So this time, as we inhale, we're going to lift our hips, creating a straight line from knees to shoulder, really opening now the front of the hip flexor. Exhaling, we'll lower down. And then inhaling, we'll press those feet down, using the feet to help us lift the hips. Exhaling down. Inhaling to rise, opening the front of the body, strengthening the back of the body, and exhaling down. We'll do just one or two more like that. And then exhaling down. Bring knees to chest. One more time. We're rocking or circling. And then, as always, having an option to stay still. Anytime we're moving, always knowing that stillness is an option. You never need to move if what the body needs is stillness. So from here, we'll bring our feet back onto the mat. We'll roll to one side, using our hands to come up to tabletop. So we'll place hands underneath shoulders. Knees are under hips, and you might choose to pad the knees if you want a little extra cushioning there. And if you have any wrist issues, maybe coming to fist for wrists. From here, we're going to move through cat and cow. So just a little while ago, we did that smaller version, and now this time we're going to include the whole spine. So inhaling, extending the heart forward as the belly drops. Exhaling, dropping the tailbone, rounding through the entire spine, one vertebra at a time, so that the head moves last. Maybe sending our gaze towards our belly button or towards the feet. And then inhaling, slowly unraveling. And exhaling, rounding. Moving with the power and the pace of your breath. So as quickly or as slowly as feels good to you right here. We're going to do just one more time like this in each direction. Exhaling to round. And then coming back to tabletop. So we have an option. We can either repeat what we just did with cat and cow, or we can add in a little bit of core work, a little bit of targeted work for the abdominals. So we can start first by inhaling, extending, finding our cow pose. And then as we exhale, rounding in, left knee towards the nose. And you're really using our core muscles, our abdominal muscles to hold that knee there. And then we'll inhale, lowering the knee, coming back into cow. Exhaling, rounding, right knee in towards the nose. Inhaling, lowering, finding that cow pose. Exhaling, our modified cat pose. Maybe bring that knee in, or you can stay in regular cat pose if that feels better. So as always, listening to your body, you might do a few like this, and then maybe returning more to the gentler version. Honoring your body in every instance. So if you're adding in this little abdominal crunch, we'll do just one more time to each side after this one. Coming back into our tabletop, and then maybe adding in some circles for the hips, or you can return to that cat and cow. Having a little bit of free movement here, so if there's something your body needs after that added strength, honoring that. And then you can add in a little wagging of your tail, maybe wagging from side to side. And with that wag, we might turn to look over one shoulder towards the heel. Inhaling,
forward, and then exhaling to look over the other shoulder. So we're adding in all different types of movement for the spine. And then coming back to center, we're going to add in a little bit of a twist. So starting here in neutral, we'll inhale, and then as we exhale, turning to the left hand can come to the hip, or we can open that arm to the sky. Exhaling back down. We'll inhale, and then exhaling over to the right side. Again, hand can come to the hip or open. Inhaling, and then we'll exhale down. So maybe moving with the breath now, inhaling through center, exhaling to one side, inhaling down, and then exhaling to the other side. And then paying attention to how the shoulder feels as we're turning from one side to the other. So if it feels okay, we might open the arm, but if not, maybe keeping that hand resting on the hip or the lower back. We can choose to look up, or we could look down. We'll take just one more time to each side. And then coming through our tabletop, we're going to bring big toes together, sinking the hips back into child's pose. Knees can be as wide apart as feels good to the body as we invite the hips down towards the heels, allowing the forehead to rest. So if the forehead comes down all the way to the floor, great, but if it doesn't make it all the way down, then we can just stack the hands or place our block or our cushion underneath the forehead so that the back of the neck can release. Observing any sensations in the body in this child's pose as we pause to rest. Remember, anytime we need to, we can pause here or any other place that feels good to the body, never needing permission to allow the body to rest. From here, we can stay in child's pose, or we can walk those fingertips forward, reaching towards the top edge of the mat, spreading fingertips wide. We'll tuck our toes under, and feet are about hip-bone distance apart. We'll lift those hips into our first downward facing dog with a practice, keeping those knees bent as much as needed. So maybe even playing with that knee bend so that the spine can feel long. And then we can start to walk our dog, lowering one heel down to the floor while the other one lifts. So we'll bend one knee, and then the other as we start to wake up the bottoms of the feet. Wake up through the calf muscles and the ankles. So noticing anywhere along the back of the legs, you might be feeling that little bit of sensation as the muscles start to warm up a little bit here. And then coming up onto the balls of the feet, we'll lift both heels. On an exhale, lowering those heels down to the ground, even if they don't make it all the way there. And we'll press that chest back towards the legs. So finding that length in the spine, facing back towards the feet. Drawing in through the navel, engaging what we call root lock, lifting through the pelvic floor. On our in-breath, we'll look forward, looking to the hands. And exhaling, taking a walk to the front of the mat, coming into forward fold. Knees are still soft here. We can find a little bit of a ragdoll, gently swaying from side to side, either letting fingertips trace the floor or holding onto opposite elbows. Maybe staying still, if that feels nicer to the low back and the backs of the legs. And if we have any tightness in the backs of the legs, we can bend those knees a little bit more. And releasing hands down next to the feet. We'll deepen the bend in our knees, inhaling, reverse swan dive. Bringing hands together at heart center in prayer position. So you can stay where you are, but I'm going to turn to face you. And we're going to start to flow through swan dive. And actually, I'll first start sideways so you can see. So feet are still hip width distance apart in our mountain pose. We're going to inhale, sweeping up
And then exhaling, hinging at the hips, big bend in the knees as we come into a forward fold. Crown of the head reaching down towards the ground. Inhaling, bending, and we'll root down through the feet to rise tall. And then exhaling to lower. So we'll do that a couple more times. Inhaling, lifting tall, exhaling, hinging and lowering down. So in both directions, we're engaging through the core, drawing navel in and up to protect the low back. Knees are going to stay bent in both directions as well. So we always want to be careful to keep a little bit of a micro bend in the knees so we don't block the knees out. Make this our last one. Inhaling all the way up. And then exhaling, hands come to the heart. So now we're going to take a wide stance on our mat. So maybe turning towards the side of your mat, bending knees. So knees and toes are going in the same direction. And we're going to start in a little bit of a squat here just to feel how that feels. Maybe even just moving through that. Then we're going to inhale, coming into a 5-pointed star. As we exhale, we're going to sit back into that little bit of a wide-legged squat. Elbows can come towards the ribs or maybe a little bit wider out into cactus arms. And we'll move with that. So inhaling, lifting, exhaling to lower. So we're just starting to warm the body up. So our range of motion might be a little smaller. At any point, we could take our arms out if we're getting a little confused by the arms or if we have any shoulder issues. And then turning this into sunflower. So this time as we exhale, we're going to hinge at the hips, keeping the spine long, drawing a circle with the arms. So just like we did in our swan dive, we want to keep that core engaged, drawing navel in and up. We're not worried about getting all the way down. In fact, we want to keep that chest lifted and the head in line with the spine. Do one more like this. And then coming back, we'll bring hands together at heart center. So we have an option to change this up a little bit here. We can either continue with either moonflowers or sunflowers, or we can add in a movement with words. So this is a way of affirming to us some things that we might want to bring into our day. So keeping the feet wide, maybe adjusting your feet if you need to, bring them a little closer, a little further apart. And on our inhale, so we're going to inhale up and we're going to think gratitude. Or we might even say it. And then as we exhale, bringing hands together at the heart, saying peace. So inhaling gratitude, reaching tall. Exhaling, hands come to heart, peace. Inhaling gratitude, exhaling peace. So we'll do this a few times. And again, you might say it out loud or to yourself. Bringing those qualities into our day. Do one more time. And then inhaling up. We'll have one more option here, one more thing to add on. So this time, maybe inhaling, opening the arms wide, feeling that sensation of joy. So opening to joy, exhaling, giving ourselves a big bear hug and saying love. Joy and love, moving with the breath, inhaling. All that joy, exhaling, give ourselves a hug and love. So now that we've got a few different options, maybe adding them together or moving through whatever options feel good. So we might do gratitude, peace, joy, and love. And we'll stay here for just a couple more rounds so you can find what feels good to you. So we'll make this last one. So then coming back into our mountain pose, we'll come back to the top of our mats. And we'll roll those shoulders back and down. So maybe even taking a moment to check in with our feet, making sure they're rooted down into the earth, feeling that energy of the ground rising into our bodies, allowing the heart and the chest to be open, softening through the knees. We'll inhale, bringing arms up. Exhaling, hands come to heart center. We're going to take a step back with the left foot. So we're coming into warrior one pose. Right knee is over the ankle, and we'll square our shoulders to the top edge of the mat. We'll check in, making sure that the left heel is pressing into the ground. So if that heel is up, maybe shortening our stance so that the foot can press into the earth, having equal weight on both sides. And then maybe inhaling, arms come up into traditional warrior arms, or if we'd like to maybe create some mobility in the shoulders, some openness in the shoulders, we can take that left arm, left hand, between the shoulder blades. So maybe taking that first as a tricep stretch, holding onto the left elbow with the right hand. Or if we'd like, we can sweep that right hand behind the body. So maybe fingertips will reach for each other, and if they meet, that's great, and if not, that's great too. If this is too much, we can release this, coming back into our traditional warrior arms. In fact, we'll all reach for that. Maybe bring hands down at any point. On our next in-breath, we're going to turn the torso to the left, coming into warrior two. So now, arms can be shoulder height if that feels okay. Turning our gaze out over the right fingertips, sitting down into that strong front thigh. So it might be easy to stand up a little bit. And maybe challenging ourselves to sit into those strong legs. We'll flip that front palm to the sky. Inhaling, taking a reverse warrior. Back hand can be on the back leg, and either looking up towards that top hand or turning the chin in any direction. From here, we're coming into side angle pose. So we'll first come into warrior two, reaching those arms wide, then bending that front elbow, bringing the forearm down to the thigh. Back hand can stay on the hip, or we might choose to lift that arm up. Opening through the heart, opening the heart to the sky. And again, noticing maybe the hips have lifted here, but if we can, staying in those strong legs. We're going to use the strength of the back leg, the back arm, to help us inhale. Coming into our warrior two, turning our gaze. Cartwheeling the arms, we'll come into a runner's lunge, and then we'll step that front foot back to meet the left, or the back leg, and we'll either stay still or maybe walk our dog a little more. We might choose to come into a three-legged dog here, which would just be inhaling one leg to the sky, then exhaling it down and inhaling the other foot up. If we're doing our three-legged dog, coming into three-legged dog, keeping both hips square to the ground right now. And then exhaling, lowering knees to the ground. We'll come into a child's pose. Letting forehead rest on the earth. And this time bringing hands back towards the feet to allow the shoulders to relax. Observing any sensations in the body right now. So we've created quite a bit of warmth and some strength. We'll pause here for just a moment to notice. And then extending those arms forward. We're going to add in some lateral flexion for the spine. So we'll walk back, both hands over to the left side, calling those fingertips forward, lengthening through the right side of the body, getting space in the ribs.
Oh, that's awesome, Trace.
And then we'll walk our hands across the mat, over to the right side.
Oh my God, Trace.
And we'll make sure that we're all on mute. So we'll walk those fingertips forward. And then coming back to center. One last time, finding that length in the spine.
Yeah, yeah.
From here, we'll tuck the toes under and we'll lift into a downward facing dog. Getting ready to take a walk back to the top of the mat. Coming into forward fold.
Trace, that salad is awesome. It's right in the freaking backyard.
We'll deepen our bend in our knees as we inhale, reverse swan dive.
Good.
Bring arms next to the body. We'll allow the eyes to close as we step in for a moment.
Just gonna drive around.
Checking in with our breath. So noticing any sensations. And as we're standing here in mountain pose with our eyes closed, just noticing maybe if we're leaning off more to one side than another, and we might even play with that a little bit. So noticing if we lean our weight a little bit to the right or to the left, and maybe swaying from left to right. Noticing where we find that feeling of being centered between both sides. And then just like we did side to side, maybe tilting forward a little bit and then back a little bit, not allowing ourselves to go into a point of losing our balance, but just noticing when we let the weight come towards the toes, the heels might lift a little bit, and then when we come back towards the heels, the toes feel a little light. So we'll settle into that place where we're balanced, front to back and side to side. And if our eyes are still closed, we'll allow them to open. Bringing hands together at the heart. So stepping the right foot back this time. So this time we're coming into our warrior one. And we'll maybe come into that traditional warrior arms where we're lifting the arms to the sky, fingertips facing each other. Rear heel is pressing into the mat. So we have that option of adding that shoulder stretch here as well. And we might have a different experience on this side. So this time maybe bring your right hand between the elbows or between the shoulder blades. Starting first with our choice of maybe tricep stretch. And that might feel really good, so you might choose to stay there. Or if you want to add in that opposite shoulder, sweeping the left arm behind the body, reaching for the fingertips, maybe holding on to your shirt, or you could use a strap or a belt right here. But not needing to, it's not necessary to actually touch the fingertips. We're just getting into both shoulders a little differently here. And if this is too much, or if you're holding your breath, backing out of it. We'll lay here for another breath or two if we're in this position. And then very slowly we'll unwind the arms, sitting down into that strong front thigh, that power in our warrior one. And then on our next in-breath, turning the torso towards the long edge of the mat, maybe stepping the feet a little bit wider apart for warrior two. So for warrior two, we want that front thigh to be spiraling towards the pinky toe edge of the foot. So if that knee is flopping in, giving it a little bit of a help so that we can see that big toe inside of the knee. And as we hold this pose, we might feel a lot of strength in the legs, and this might be really challenging. But knowing that if we can meet these challenging moments on the mat, then we can meet the challenging moments off of our mat as well. We'll turn that front palm towards the sky, inhaling, taking our reverse warrior, backhand on the thigh, maybe around the lower back. Turning your gaze or your drishti in whatever direction feels safest to the neck. And then as we inhale, coming back through warrior two for just a breath. We'll bend that front elbow, bringing the forearm down to the thigh, coming into side angle pose. So that right arm, or that top arm might lift, or you can bring it to the lower back. That feels safer to the shoulder. And then taking just one more breath here as we sit into that strong front thigh. Noticing that we're not allowing the belly to down, so we're lifting through the lower belly. And inhaling back into warrior two. Cartwheeling those arms, we'll come into our runner's lunge, and then stepping back, finding downward facing dog. So in this down dog, you might choose to lower the knees to child's pose. You could add in any movement or maybe even just stay still. So from here, we'll find stillness in our downward facing dog or child's pose. Walking hands back to meet the feet this time. Deepening the bend in our knees as we inhale, taking a reverse swan dive. Exhaling, hands come to heart center. We're going to take a wide stance on our mat once again. We might want to have a block or a cushion nearby if you have one. So this time, our feet are going to be parallel to each other. So toes are pointing in the same direction, knees are soft. We'll inhale, finding a little bit of a back bend and a heart opener here. Drawing shoulder blades in towards each other. Chin is down towards the chest. So our gaze might be up slightly, but not overly tilting or arching the neck. As we exhale, bending the knees, letting the hands trace the legs all the way down, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. Crown of the head towards the earth. So first, feeling this forward fold, keeping your knees bent as much as you'd like. And then taking both hands over to the left ankle. So hands can come to the left ankle, the calf, or the thigh, or maybe to our block. Being aware of any differences between both sides of the body. So we're going to feel this stretch differently on each leg. Relaxing the shoulders and the throat. Allowing the back of the neck to be long. Walking hands through center and over to that right leg now. And again, noticing how this side feels. Maybe any different from the first side. Coming back through center. Now this time we may want to use our block. We'll inhale forward, finding a flat back. And then exhaling, rounding. So hands could be on your block at any height. Or they could be on the ground. But as we lower into that exhale, crown of the head comes towards the earth. And then inhaling, lifting. Still keeping those knees soft. Exhaling, rounding. So bending the knees a little deeper. We'll bring hands up to the thighs. Very slowly inhaling with that deep knee bend all the way back up. And now pivoting on the heels, we're going to turn the toes back out and we're going to come into Sun Goddess pose. So kind of where we started with our moonflowers earlier. We'll bring arms out to shoulder height, palms are up. We're really focusing on expanding and opening through the chest, drawing shoulder blades towards each other, maybe looking up. Feeling the heat of the sun, we're creating that warmth in our bodies. And then sitting down as we rise up, inhaling. Exhaling, hands come to heart center. So we're getting ready for our balance pose for today, which is going to be Warrior 3. And we have a whole lot of options for Warrior 3. So you might want to have blocks nearby, and I've got them at the top of my mat. You could also be near a wall for this, so you might turn your body towards the wall and using the wall as support. So for Warrior 3, we're going to start as if we were doing Warrior 1. So mirroring you, stepping the left foot forward, and we're just going to square the hips. So for a true Warrior 1, we have that rear foot out at an angle, but we're going to, almost as if we were doing a lunge pose. So a high lunge. We'll turn all 10 toes in the same direction, and our feet are parallel to each other, so they're still hip-width distance, as if we were on train tracks. And we'll lift those arms to the sky. So here's our modification of Warrior 1. And this might be enough of a balance challenge for us today, lifting that rear heel off the ground. So maybe staying here if that's okay, and if that's feeling challenging. And then only if we want to go a little further, we might start to Maybe play with that rear heel, coming up a little higher. Hands can stay lifted or they can come to prayer. And maybe starting to shift the weight into that front foot. Still keeping all 10 toes in the same direction. So if we're lifting that rear foot, the toes are still pointing down. And, woo, so a little bit of sway there. We might come forward. And arms could be extended forward. And here's where the blocks come into play. You might choose to bring hands down to the blocks. So if that rear leg is lifted, we want to keep the toes pointing down so hips are level and square. So I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to show you, again, just the 3 options or several options. So our first option is right here, or we could be at the wall like that. So maybe being here. We can start to come forward at the wall. We can come, or we start to hinge forward. And having arms extended forward or out. Or if we want a little extra balance, we can use our hands on the blocks. So staying there wherever you are, and if you fall out of your pose, maybe dusting yourself off and coming back into the pose. And then we'll come out. And then we'll try the other side. So I'm just going to flip my blocks over to the other side. So this time, right foot is forward, left foot is back. Squaring the hips, bringing hands to the heart. And letting go of any need for both sides to look the same. So we usually have one side that likes to balance a little bit more. And just paying attention to what the body has to give us today. So arms could be in that lifted posture. So this could be our warrior 3 right here, playing with that little bit of a kickstand, or maybe hinging at the hips, keeping the toes pointing down. So imagining that we have a glass of water on our low back. And then either using the wall or the blocks if we want a little extra support. So we bring hands down. Engaging through that core. Staying here for 1 or 2 more breaths. And very slowly, we'll come up and out. And then a little bit of counter movement of any type that you might need. So if you were particularly tense in that, you might want to shake out arms and legs. Maybe add in a little twist. Letting the arms come behind the body, tapping the hips or maybe even towards the kidneys. So now I'm going to take my blocks up and out of the way, sending them all the way back at the front. We're going to come into one last mountain pose. So remembering this is our place of power. So finding all that power, finding your strength in this pose, relaxing the shoulders and letting the jaw be soft, letting our gaze be soft down towards the earth. We'll take a lateral flexion here. So inhaling, reaching one arm up, opposite hand comes to the hip or down towards the leg. Exhaling that arm down, and we'll inhale, reaching up while the other hand comes to the hip or to the thigh. Getting through the side body a little more. We're going to do this one more time to each side. Exhaling down, inhaling to lift. Exhaling to lower, inhaling to rise. So now bringing both arms up towards the sky. Softening our knees as we exhale, slow motion swan dive, forward fold. Walking our feet back into our last down facing dog of the practice. So any last little bit of movement or stillness that you'd like right here. And then lowering these down to the ground. We'll make our way onto our bottoms. So we're going to come into butterfly pose and maybe choosing to sit on a block, maybe just for today, allowing ourselves that support to sit on maybe a block or a rolled up blanket. We'll bring the soles of our feet together, letting knees drop out to the side. And then taking a moment to allow our eyes to soften back towards the earth or to close completely if that feels okay. And in this pose, we're just going to notice if we're holding on to any tension in the body, maybe in the shoulders. So if we're creating tension holding this pose, maybe softening through the jaw, softening through the shoulders. Not trying to force anything to happen right here. And very slowly we'll allow eyes to open. And we're going to just come to a regular cross-legged position. So either leg in front. And usually we tend to pick the same leg forward. So just noticing which foot is in front. And we're going to take a twist. So inhaling, lengthening, growing tall. So maybe thinking about the crown of your head or rising as if there were a string to the top of the head. As we exhale, we'll turn over to the left side. Maybe letting our gaze come towards that rear shoulder. And we're starting that twist from the low belly and then the chest and then the shoulder. So rather than starting by trying to turn the head first. And then we'll inhale, coming back to center. Sitting up nice and tall. And then on we exhale, we'll turn over to the left side. Again, starting low belly, then chest, and shoulders and head. And twists are great for digestion. They're kind of like wringing ourselves out from the inside, wringing out our organs. We'll come back to center. So I mentioned whichever foot was in front, so now we're going to switch that. So we tend to always sit the other way. Our bodies go towards the place of least resistance. So now we're going to find that other side. So different foot in front, and we're going to take our twist once again. So inhaling, sitting up tall, exhaling, slowly rotating. And it might feel different on your hips and your pelvis now that we've changed legs. And just allowing the breath to be steady and even here. Sometimes when we're twisting, it can be more difficult to breathe, having our inhales and exhales. So if you notice the breath getting labored, maybe backing out of your twist a little bit. We'll inhale forward, and we'll exhale, twisting over to that right side. And twists are not only great for digestion and for our internal organs, but also great for the spine. So we've moved our spine in a lot of different directions today, which helps keep it nice and healthy. Keeps it mobile. And inhaling, coming back to face the front. If we're on a block or a support, we can set it to the side. And we'll make our way onto our backs. So either turning to one side first, or you can hold on to one leg, using that leg as a handle to roll onto the back. So this is kind of where we started. So just noticing right now how the back body is feeling compared to when we started our practice. Again, not attaching any judgments or stories. Just being that observer. We're going to bring our feet down to the ground. And we'll take our feet as wide as our yoga mat, and we'll just let the knees go side to side. Just a nice, gentle windshield wiper movement, almost as if we were like seaweed on the bottom of the ocean, or just really getting into those hips. So you might notice one side feels tighter than the other, and we don't have to go all the way down on either side. We're just creating that openness through the hips. Our hips carry so much tightness, so we can sometimes take a little bit of time to get into this space. So from here, we're going to bring our feet back in, and we're going to do a little bit of more targeted work for the core. So we'll lift both feet towards the sky, and knees can be bent here as much as you'd like. And hands can be next to the hips, or you can place hands underneath the bottom, and that might protect the lower back a little bit. We're going to create some small circles, or what's called a corkscrew. So we'll start to go clockwise in one direction, starting really small, so not needing to make the circles very big at all, but we're using our core stability as we're circling the legs. Feet are pressing into each other, thighs are pressing into each other. So it's as if we have one giant leg. And maybe as we warm up a little bit here and get more comfortable with this, our movement might get a little bigger. But if that creates any discomfort in the lower back, we'll come back to that smaller version. We'll do just one more time in this direction. And coming back to center, we'll go that opposite direction. We're going to start small again. So especially changing directions, it might take a few repetitions till we get into the flow. And then only if it feels okay, maybe making that movement a little bigger. But noticing as we're creating that circle, where in our lower abdominals are we feeling it? And anytime you need to, bend the knees a little bit more, or making that movement a little tinier, taking a break if you need to. We'll do just one more time in this direction. And knees to chest. Maybe lifting forehead to meet the knees one more time, curling into that tight little ball. Giving ourselves a big hug. Exhaling, back of the head towards the ground. We can lift our feet to the sky to come into a happy baby pose. So for happy baby, knees go nice and wide. We can hold on at the back of the thighs, reaching for the calves, or maybe all the way up towards the bottoms of the feet. So we can hold on the outsides of the feet, or take our peace fingers around our big toes. So a couple different options there. And we can choose to stay still like a dead bug, or we can rock side to side like a happy baby. Again, using the ground to get a nice massage for the back. Drawing those knees down towards the earth. Inviting the hips down towards the ground as well. And if at any point this feels uncomfortable, we can just come to that knees to chest position. And exhaling, bringing the feet down. We can come to our windshield wipers one more time, or we can lift both hips up and over to the right side, dropping knees to the left side, taking a more passive twist for the spine. Arms can go out to the side in a T shape, or you could bring them into cactus. Turning the chin away from the knees or up to the sky. Allowing the body to settle into this pose and begin to slow down. Just one or two more breaths right here. Coming back to center, we'll lift hips up and over to the left edge of our mat, dropping the knees to the right. Opening the heart towards the sky. Eyes might even close here as we really feel the body slowing down. Taking a last breath or two right here. And very slowly coming back to center, taking any last little bit of movement or stillness as you make your way slowly into Shavasana. Final relaxation. So that might resemble where we started the practice on our backs. Maybe with the knees still bent, or we can extend the legs, the feet wider. And the hips, maybe letting the feet flop out to the side, arms Rest next to the body with palms open in a gesture of receiving. And again, giving our bodies permission to let go here, permission to relax. Letting go of any effort and any doing as we soften that place between the eyebrows. Letting the eyes be heavy in their sockets. Relaxing the throat and the jaw. Feeling the shoulders soften into the earth. Releasing the whole back of the body.
Go for the ride. Not all sections of the road we travel are smooth, paved, easy riding. We may prefer the smooth sections of highway, but sometimes the road gets rough, and the rough section can go on for miles and miles. That's okay. It doesn't mean you've lost your way. It doesn't mean the rough section and bumpy spots will last forever. You're still on your path. Relax. Wiggle your shoulders a bit. Get ready for you, just maybe in for the ride of your life. Don't try to ignore the bumps or pretend they're not there. Not all roads are paved and smooth. Not all roads are meant to be. Slow down a bit if you need to, but don't stop. Accept each part of the journey as it comes. Let each stretch of your path be what it needs to be. Inviting some movement back into the body, tracing the thumbs over the fingers and maybe wiggling the toes. Turning to one side with the knees bent. And then using the hands to help lift to an easy, comfortable seat. Sitting up nice and tall, rooting through the tailbone, allowing the crown of the head to reach towards the sky. We'll inhale, circle sweeping the arms up and overhead, bringing the palms together. With the thumbs to the forehead for good thoughts, to the lips for good words, and to the hearts for good intentions. The divine light in me honors and sees the divine light in you. Namaste. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.